So in the case of a cancer patient, if they don't believe that they can heal themselves without doing chemo and radiation and all that kind of stuff, is tapping going to help them? A lot of people have tried tapping at some point, maybe from a video on YouTube or a simple script. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I've tried it a lot of times. My guest today says that the reason is that most people tapping are missing a crucial step in the process. In this episode, we explore clinical EFT, emotional freedom techniques. It's a structured form of tapping that's been studied in hundreds of clinical trials, and why the way that you work with an emotion can make all the difference. Let's get into it. Sophia, welcome. So, what is the difference between clinical EFT and regular EFT?
Clinical EFT is evidence-based EFT. It's the gold standard where they did the clinical trials. We have over 300 peer-reviewed studies versus someone just watching a video or just making sentences. There's a particular process and procedure to be done that we know it's effective and we can measure. A lot of people just know these tapping sentences and they just tap. Not that you can't do it that way, and not that it can't be effective, but it's not as effective as when you follow what we would call the equivalent of a gold standard.
And so, just for those that don't know, EFT is emotional freedom technique, correct?
It's emotional freedom techniques, and it's a combination between cognitive psychotherapy and tapping on your body's meridians and doing acupuncture without needles. You physically are actually tapping on those meridians. There's a particular way that we set up the sentences, which I want to address at some point.
Why don't we go ahead and do that in just a moment? One thing I'm curious about is, so what you're saying is that there are specific words or the order is different. Why don't you tell us?
So the structure has to, first of all, isolate what the emotion is, right?
Okay.
Because it's called emotional freedom techniques. And a lot of people get caught in the thought pattern, right? What he did was wrong, but you're not addressing the feeling. What is the feeling? It could be, I'm wronged, but the feeling is anger. We want to address the emotion. Then we want to locate it. Just saying he did me wrong, where is it?
Where it is in the body?
Correct. That's the most important aspect. We want to locate it because we're going to do something with it. And then we want to end it with something positive. And we also want to start with even though. You want to acknowledge the feeling, where it's located, and what is the event. You want to make it specific. Joanna cut me off on the street today. It's always in the present tense. I'm angry. I was angry yesterday is not going to have the same effect. And two more aspects that I incorporate. You want to put your awareness on where the anger is, not to force it away, to observe it, right? So your consciousness is what dissolves the energy. And the other part is to breathe in the belly. And I'll explain why. When you do shallow breathing, you activate beta brain waves. That's the stress response. It's going to work, but it's going to take a really long time. When we breathe in the belly, it does two things. Number one, you get the alpha brain waves. So the body starts calming down. You're activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and you're also telling the body at the same time it's safe. The act of tapping and breathing slow and deep into the belly is actually giving a signal to the body it's safe. And then when we clear it, it's going to rewire.
A couple of questions I just want to clarify. So the premise is that when we experience an emotion, it is stored someplace in the body, correct?
I'll explain the process for you. So you have a thought.
Yes.
Joanna cut me off. I start to feel it. I get some anger and I'm going to get another angry thought. So now, Joanna cut me off, and I keep on looping. Feelings are chemical, and each organ stores an emotion. So the anger, you're going to feel it a little bit in your adrenals, but it may accumulate in your liver or wherever it is for you. And this anger is coming up. And second law of thermodynamics tells us energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted. So
Right.
You accumulated this anger, which had a message for you, but you didn't process it because you didn't feel it. So now we get next week another anger, another anger. Eventually we start getting these nuts, or that particular organ is not working anymore, or we're having side effects because now you have all this energy stored in the body, which is blocking the correct communication between cells. And now we're starting to get ease the body, not at ease. Our job is to reverse engineer. We want to go back and feel the energy just as energy. Acknowledge what we didn't say, and hopefully we get a cognitive shift. Now the energy starts moving. You feel lighter, the body's getting more relaxed, and it's calming down. The body doesn't know the difference if it's a real life experience or thought alone. Let's say you're angry every day is going to activate the sympathetic nervous system. There is no tiger, but it's activating it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to do it with all the steps, and then that will move the energy. At the end, we put something positive. I acknowledge this is what I'm feeling. I'm open to finding a place of peace. Some people use, I deeply, completely love and accept myself. I don't use that for beginners because a lot of beginners don't love themselves.
That's a really valid point too, because if you say something that your brain says, oh, that's not true, it's going to not be very helpful, correct?
Yeah. So I modified. I acknowledge this is where I'm at, and I'm open to seeing it more with more clarity.
I like that.
Or finding a place of peace.
Yeah. And the places that we typically store emotions are our organs. Mostly we aren't going to store something in a big toe.
You can too. Absolutely.
Oh, you can. Okay. So the meridians that we're tapping, because I've done tapping myself a bunch over the years, they're all in the face or upper body, underarm. So all of those connected to the rest of the body. Okay. So if there is something lodged in a big toe, it would be able to be reached through the meridian. Okay. Got it.
Absolutely. When you look at the meridian map, we want to cover some key points where they're connect.
Right.
So lungs hold grief. The heart holds heartache. The digestive tract holds often indigestible anger. You just can't let it go. And then as a result, the body signals it at constipation. So the body is physically not letting go.
And what got you into all of this?
I worked in healthcare, and I ended up having a chronic health challenge that almost killed me. And I was sick in the hospital for 23 days, and I realized the medical model was not solving this issue. And I started looking at alternative modalities, and I tried pretty much all of them, 30 sessions of each. And the one that worked for me was this.
What was it about the EFT that you feel actually helped you come back from whatever this illness was?
I was starting to connect with my body. All my emotions were processed in the head, and they were all stories. So it was rumination of stories, and I was angry, but I was like a talking head. Now, when I have the anger, I actually can feel it in my body. Or when there's fear, I could feel it, and I could either sit with it and clear it, and then the energy moves. Before, it was verbally talking, disconnected from the body. And if it was very intense, we do a few things. We have a distraction or avoidance. So whenever the difficult emotions came, I don't drink. So I would get busy on the project or doing research and never address the emotion and the issue. And it was accumulating. Now I go back, and it's safe for me to feel it and clear it. And when I see patterns of constantly getting distracted, I know something's coming up. We have not been taught to connect with our body. To feel the emotion because it feels dangerous for us.
And so when you're aware of an emotion and where it is in your body, when you clear it, you're doing it with EFT, or can you do it without even tapping?
Sometimes I could do it by observation and sitting and breathing into it. I still tend to use EFT, but you can evolve if you can eliminate the story. Because when we have a feeling, the mind is active. cut me off. It's not fair. It's wrong.
Yeah.
And that rumination keeps on producing more chemistry. And the research does say if there's no rumination, no engagement of the brain, it takes about 90 seconds to 2 minutes and it's gone.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about the specifics of the things that you say, because I know you mentioned that in the beginning. What is the philosophy that you have been taught, or what are the details of how you do a script versus what somebody might try if they saw a YouTube video?
So the in-between words don't matter too much, but
Okay.
the structure matters.
Okay.
So the even though, and where we start the even though, which is here because it changes the polarity of the body. Why? The body is a battery. So we don't start the even though here. We always start it here. So finding the emotion, being very specific. A lot of people put 5 emotions. You can't do 5 emotions, 1 emotion at a time, 1 specific event at a time. You just can't. The mind likes to say, I'm angry at him, and you can't clear it. It's like clearing a room, right? I have 5 rooms to clean. I pick 1 shirt here, 1 shirt there, 1 shirt in the other room. I'll never end up clearing. And then I'm confused where I picked it up from.
I'm curious though, because I've tried to clear my fear of flying. And there's probably more than 1 emotion that's tied into that for me. How would you structure a tapping?
You start with the highest one.
Oh, okay. And you do that 1 emotion first.
1 emotion at a time.
Okay.
And once you clear the now, so thinking about having a flight that it feels not safe, then you go back and clear and rewrite the original flight that probably caused the challenge.
Yeah.
So we always have to go to the original imprint. Nothing happens in the now unless there was a trigger in the past.
Oh, and there absolutely was. Lost one of my best friends when I was 12. She and her mother and 2 brothers on the landing into Kennedy. Their plane blew up by hitting a runway light. And the thing that's so interesting though about that fear that has developed for me is that I didn't really have as much of a fear of flying when I was younger until probably after 9/11. Then I added a new fear of terrorists being on the airplane.
That was a re-trigger of the original one and amplified it. So if I were you, I'd start with the now, clear the 9/11, go back and clear the original one, and actually you can rewrite the original one. You can re-imprint it with a new story.
Okay. So 1 emotion, essentially 1 event, or 1, how did you describe it?
You always do 1 emotion with 1 event at a time. And you can also add the belief if you want. I like to use the belief. Let's say you're going to fly tomorrow. Right. So I have this anxiety in my chest thinking about my flight tomorrow. And what is the belief? I could crash like my friend. Right. So you have a belief in there. So you keep on clearing. Then it might be anger. Why aren't these planes safe? It doesn't take too long. Usually with phobias and stuff, 2-3 sessions, that should clear. And then you go back, you have to address the original event.
So how long did it take you?
Months. It's sick for over 16 years.
Wow. Okay. So you were doing this daily, multiple times a day? What did that look like?
I chose to do it daily and get a practitioner daily because of the hospitalization, and there were some other health ailments and a lot of medications I was taking. I wanted to get off of them. So I started with 7 days. She worked with me for over 6 to 8 months daily. And then I moved to 3 times a week, stayed there for a few years, and now it's 2 times a week, but I do it now for maintenance.
Wow. So let's say somebody had cancer. How would using EFT, the clinical version that you use, how would that impact that diagnosis and the resulting illness? So
all disease is a lowering of frequency. So we start clearing the memories when it started. We also have to clear the fear of the diagnosis, because that's the thing. Medicine says it's not going to heal, or whatever it says, and those need to be cleared. Once those are neutralized, the body under the right condition starts to self-heal.
I'm imagining that the person has to be at least open to the possibility of there being these beliefs around. So in the case of a cancer patient, if they don't believe that they can heal themselves without doing chemo and radiation and all that kind of stuff, is tapping going to help them?
Yes, first of all, it alleviates the stress that they're going through, and they can do it
Okay.
in conjunction. If they really believe
Okay.
the chemo is going to help, but
Right.
they're still having anxiety, is this going to come back? Is this going to
Right.
leave? We do know from medical stuff now that stress is one of the biggest killers. At
Sure.
least it's alleviating stress, which is 70% of the issue. We also
Right.
know all cancers have some version of suppressed anger.
Yeah, I've heard
Behavior
that too.
wise, they have some sort of anger involved.
Right.
When we look at the body, we know anger and low frequency emotions automatically activate the sympathetic nervous system. So you could be doing all the chemo in the world, but if you are in the sympathetic overdrive, healing is either may not take place
Mm,
or it's going to take a really long time because the body
okay.
is never resting. It's never shutting off.
Yeah. Wow. So you said there were some really good studies using the clinical EFT. Can you talk a little bit about that for people that might be listening and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this sounds too good to be true." what
There's about
what can you
300
tell us?
peer-reviewed studies. First of all, it has shown to be more effective than plain cognitive psychotherapy, and it works much faster. That's number
Okay.
one. We also know it downregulates 6 genes of stress, and one of it is cortisol. It actually turns
Oh,
it off.
wow.
Yeah.
And what was the frequency that they were using for these studies?
What do you mean frequency?
Like, were they doing it daily over 30
Mm,
days, 60 days?
that I don't remember. I think they were various, but they weren't that long. It could be a couple of months, and they weren't doing it every day. It's recommended that the person does tapping on their own daily for cleaning their emotional health. So
Okay.
they're not dependent on the practitioner.
Right.
The
And they're
only
getting a script that they're using the same script each time, or?
I teach them how to do their own script
Oh, okay, to make their own.
because each day
Because
could be
things will change.
correct. So the whole thing is empowerment because the more you feel you have control over your life, the more likely you're going to feel you can do this. If you're
Right.
relying on something out there, it's going to be a little longer and you have to give your full trust. But when you actually see results by yourself, cleared your anxiety by yourself, you tapped for 20 minutes and the anxiety was there and now it was gone. Now you're starting to believe
There's something to this. So just to finish the thought about the studies, what were the major findings that they
you can
discovered?
down regulate certain genes and you can down regulate genes for disease. There was a study on vision as well. That was a 7-week study where the person tapped by themselves and they
Mhm.
cleared their vision problems.
So what are the top two client stories that you have of people that have gotten major relief from doing this?
I've had a few. I had a woman who had Tourette's and it healed after 6 or 7 sessions.
Whoa. And she'd had Tourette's for years?
Yes, she was in her mid 40s. She said she had it since 3. We found in EFT she had it after the second or first trimester.
Wait, so how did you figure that out?
I do birth reimprint. So we take them back into the past, and there's a process we do. And
Yeah.
I took her through the birth process, and she had a witnessing while she was in the womb that her mother was being beaten from the father, being slammed
Ooh.
on the crib. So the father was slamming the mother while pregnant on the face on
Oh
the
my
crib, and she
goodness.
was getting the movements. And
Yeah.
it
And the
explains why she
stress.
and it explains why she had so much anger towards her father.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Wow. So Tourette's gone. That's impressive.
I have a paralyzed woman now who can walk without a cane, not full there.
Yes.
And she's paralyzed on one side only and can do more hand movement. She's not fully there. The right arm is not fully working yet, but her gait is improving and she could not walk without the cane.
Wow. And so how long are you typically working with people? Is there a general amount of time, or is it really case dependent?
It's case dependent. The key is how comfortable are they feeling to allow those emotions to come up.
Ah,
And if they're young, before the age of 35, anxiety usually clears within 10 sessions.
oh, isn't that interesting?
Yes, because after 35, the personality is hardwired, the ego and the brain is more hardwired, which is harder for older people to heal faster because our
Okay.
beliefs are so hardwired.
So I'm curious about something like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Is that something that anybody's worked with as far as EFT and had success?
So, yes, the controlled behavior is a safety mechanism that the body thinks it's doing to protect itself because it's avoiding another emotion. It's when
Okay.
you only go back and clear the previous emotion that the body will release the behavior.
Interesting. So you have to search for whatever that major emotion is associated with that, or just the first one?
So what would happen if you didn't wash your hands 200 times? There's a panic
Ah,
or a fear. Something has happened that created this control.
right.
Usually is they've lost control somewhere else in their life. So your conscious mind, this is where people get stuck. Says,
Okay.
I know this is crazy, but
Yes.
that's only 5% of your brain.
Oh,
The conscious mind is
5%.
only 5. Your subconscious is 95. Once the emotion gets released, so cognitive psychotherapy, that's why EFT showed up to be more effective. Cognitive psychotherapy did not release the emotional charge. It's the
Right.
emotional charge that's keeping her hostage.
Right.
Something automatically triggers, I need to do this behavior. And it was, again, to protect.
Having experienced tapping quite a bit over the years and thinking that it was helpful, but I wasn't quite sure, how helpful it could be. And what I'm hearing from you is that it basically can help people reverse diseases and all kinds of amazing stuff. So, what would you say is the first step for somebody that's curious about this?
Just explore it. Find a
Okay.
practitioner. And I never recommend a person who has a lot of trauma to go and do those self-help videos. Never.
Oh, okay. So don't grab one of the YouTube ones and try to tap.
If it's on a traumatic situation, no. If it's
Okay.
on, this guy who dented my car, that's fine.
Gotcha.
If it's just being angry at the weather, that's
Yes.
fine. Serious traumatic stuff.
Somebody to guide you.
Yes, because you're
Yeah.
opening a can of worms and you don't know how to self-contain and close it. What if it doesn't clear for you and now you're flooded with all these
Ooh,
memories?
yeah. Good point.
And the
Yeah.
script has to be specific for you because it's not going to work. A lot of
Yes.
these videos say anger, fear, and this because they're telling you pick which one it is for you. But if you don't
Yeah.
know, you're just tapping on all of them and you're not
Right.
getting any effects and then you're getting discouraged.
And they can be somewhat generic, and you can have lines that don't necessarily apply to you, that your brain is saying this doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Let's finish what you said.
Okay.
Start to see how your personality or your current emotional state has contributed to the situation. That
Okay.
should be the key. So, yes, we do have challenges. We have health issues, we have relationship issues, we have financial issues. Start exploring, how do I feel about these situations? If the emotion is of a low frequency or makes you feel powerless, then there's something that's holding into place. I recommend, if you're very anxious, to do those slow breaths, the
Okay.
4, the 6, 3, 9s, or whatever. There's tons of
Box breathing and all that stuff, but it's belly breathing is the
it's
main.
always belly
Yeah.
breathing. And if you want to calm yourself down, the exhale has to be longer.
Ah.
Always longer. That's why it's 4, 4, 8 or 6, 3, 9. So it's the last exhale from the belly that calms, that
Okay.
shows us how to handle stress. And if we do a hold at the end after the exhale, that activates embryonic brain stem cells.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, that's why a lot of the breath practices have a hold and they want you to
Oh.
hold. Wim Hof has hold for 30 seconds up to 2 minutes.
Oh,
It
yeah.
activates and rewires the brain. This
So how do people reach you?
They can come to my website. I offer a 30-minute complimentary session.
Oh, wow.
If EFT is not good for them, I'll suggest something else.
Okay.
Also do a 75-minute masterclass. I teach a course of Dr. Joe Dispenza, Change Your Mind, Create New Results, which is a neuroscience-based program. And I do some other modalities as well, connecting to the future self, to the previous self, and I do hacking reality.
Hacking reality.
That's when you rewrite the past.
Oh, okay.
Memories in the past. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real life experience or an experience created by thought alone. Right. So now you're creating your new version of yourself that's more empowered versus the one that you were powerless.
And there's something important about once you remove a belief that you no longer want, to put a positive belief in there. I almost imagine it like there's this space that needs to be filled. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct. Okay. You want to replace it with something else.
And what's your website address?
It's tapintoyourbestself.com, and all my social media is some variation of Tap Into Your Best Self just by itself.
I'm going to have to delve more deeply into this.
Thank you. Had some wonderful questions. No matter where you're at, there's always a solution for this problem.
So much to learn and so much great awareness that has given us so many more tools. And I feel like that really leaves us much more empowered. I love that word empowered, even though I know a lot of people are using it, but it just fits. The idea that we can take our power back and actually make changes and don't have to feel like victims of circumstances and whatnot. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me.